in, and I'm happy to hand over the floor to you to help us understanding a little bit of the challenges that you can see from your end into the operations within these companies.
Yes. Okay. I think I can share some screens here.
Yes, and you're also welcome, of course, to share your video if you can, if you like. Now we can see you.
Yes.
Hello.
Okay. And let's see. Okay. Looks like, okay, now I can share too. Great. Yes, we're more like from the network side, doing IoT, and more like the network and cybersecurity defense. Me personally, I'm more like a network engineer, but we're continuing on businesses where we see that in today's situations, we see a lot of companies where we enter the business. We see that a lot of IoT devices are mixed between server environments and other things. And I think Ulrich mentioned some breaches before, but mobile threats or threats are nowadays more coming from inside network than from the outside, or things that are cloud-based that get a breach, and then from there on they enter the network. So that's what we're now focusing on to our customers to make sure that we put in segmentation in place, that we try to avoid if someone breaches that we don't spread the whole company that some things are secured, to make sure that the attack ground can be limited. What we do, nowadays, probably you don't have seen some breaches like the DIN and the camera attack, that they break into the cameras, and from there on they send a DDoS attack. That's things that we want to avoid from into the company network. We want to get rid of the servers and make sure that it's separated from the rest of the network, the production network. And we see it too often that they are next to the ERP servers, to the CRM, to the Active Directory, printer servers, everything together in the same network. That's asking for problems. So what we do, we have a different diversity of clients, and especially when it comes to IoT. Ourselves, we are building a new offices in Turnhout, and we are now in the struggle also. The heating, the cooling, everything what's coming into place for a new building. They want all IP, and when they start, it's never a problem. But how it's connected, how is it managed? Most of the times it's managed from the cloud, or they want remote management. But then you have to ask, what if the remote side is breached? What's the impact for my business? So that's why for our offices and for our customers, we try to segment every device, like the heating, the air conditioning. We want to separate it from all the rest. So if something happens, they can't put out or shut down the heating or something. How we do this? We use network access control, but we can do it a step further. We can do it also on the network side, on the wired side. So what we try to accomplish is that we, for instance, if we put in onto the network an IoT device, a Raspberry Pi or anything, we can send a secure tunnel to a controller type, kind of firewall controller. All the traffic is tunneled to the controller, and there we do inspection of the traffic. This way we can avoid, for instance, if we put in something on port 5 and we connect it to port 14, another thing, they can't speak to each other on the same switch. That all traffic is passing through the controller, so we can have an inspection of the network, and we have control of it. So we can avoid people putting in things on the network and they're speaking on the switch without knowing IT, and that's most of the problem. IT doesn't know. The number of times I'm talking to IT, and then we do a scan, and then they say, okay, we have this amount of printers, we have this amount of PLC, we have this amount of IoT devices. We didn't know. And then the problem starts, but then we have to talk to engineering, then we have to talk to the business, and then we have to restrict that. And then it's a political issue, a political discussion with customers, with businesses, that we have to shut down or switch over things, which has a huge impact on the business. How we do this? For instance, we have several devices. We have a printer, we have a phone, we have a PC or an IoT device. We can put in the switch ports. The type of device is saying what type of port it has to be. For instance, if I put in a printer in this port in the switch, then the role of the switch port will be a printer port with a specific VLAN or something, with an ACL. Is it a VoIP phone? If it's a type of VoIP phone, then we will put a voice VLAN on the switch. And then we put on the quality of service things. More important, if we put in a Raspberry Pi or something else, what we define as an IoT device, all traffic is tunneled to the switch, to the controller, and then we can see, okay, this is an IoT device, this is the traffic we want, and we want to segment. We want to control it, so we see immediately what we can do with it, and we can limit it, or we have a good control of it, and that's in fact what we see now more and more often. We have to IT has to know it to make sure it's secure. Otherwise, it will end up in the server VLANs, in printer VLANs, anywhere where you probably won't like it, or someone is plugging in a 4G router or something, and they put on the company network. You're bypassing the company firewall. You can be breached pretty easily. So and in a bigger picture, this is what we want to accomplish. All IoT device we want to tunnel to the controller, and all the rest, VoIP phones and PCs and computers, they can be on the switch like they have been always to the corporate network, but the tunnel traffic has to pass the controller. If you want, you can tunnel also the computer's traffic. It's not required, but it can be. But we have a dynamic segmentation, as we name it, on the controller. We have a good understanding of the traffic passing by. So this way we can limit that people plug in everything on the switch on the network, and we can make sure everything is secured, and it's dynamically. That's more important. But you can do it now, and you can go through the whole process, and then next month or next year you come back and it's again messed up. But with this type of security, we can do it dynamically. If you plug it in, it's immediately tunneled or secured as it should be, and it's segmented. So you never have the possibility of people plugging in things that you don't want on the network. And this is a very frequently question we get from our customers, that we need to secure the network and the firewalls to segment everything. On firewalls, we plug in security policies, but it's more the access layer, how you plug in the devices on the network, and what you put on the Wi-Fi or stuff, that you can segment it and that you can secure it in your company. Especially if you do it on a large scale, if you do it in multi-sites or your headquarters and you do it in remote offices, it's most of the times those remote offices that not are socially checked, where not much people are passing by, or there you see some kind of things of being plugged in on the network that you don't expect, and we see the strangest things, to be honest. And then the IT department is checking from where is it coming, who is it doing, and why is it plugged in, because they don't dare to pull it out, because maybe it's important, but they don't know it. So with this kind of security onto the network, and we can make sure companies are secure and they stay secure. I think with this, this is for us a major situation, onto a major thing on the network and on for cybersecurity. Don't know if I think I was planned to questions or something. Is this clear to everyone, or?
If there are questions, please raise them. You can use the chat for any questions. I think people might be thinking about some of the questions in that case, Hans, and maybe if they raise questions that we can address them a bit later on. They probably won't be popping up immediately. But thank you very much for that. I see that there's one hand raised, so let's we figure out where that's coming from one of the attendees. I can't really see who it is. So put your question in the chat if you can, because it says now user group participant, so not directly sure who that is. Anyways, well, thanks for that. Yeah, I do have a short question, Hans, and it's the first time that you participate in an LSEC event, but those who have done that, you know, there's always a question that I have in any case for the speakers. So in this case, we are really considering things like a software bill of materials, which is the bit of the challenge in relation to industry organizations getting into supply chain. So how do you see the management console feasible, that we can actually insert policies and make sure that there's also an access control that can happen through the type of solution that you propose? Is that something that you see that through the interfacing is relatively easy, or will it be a challenge to program it?
It's relatively easy, because the thing it's doing, it's fingerprinting your devices as you see them passing by the network. So from the moment you plug in onto the network, the first thing that a device is doing is a DHCP request. And that's the one we are capturing, and we do more things than only DHCP, but that's one we're getting a lot of information from. And with that information, we can say, okay, if we see a Linux device, if we see a Raspberry Pi or something, there are more things to say about it, more different devices. But we can say, okay, for this device, if we see this passing by, this rule set has to be pushed to this kind of device. And if this now if this is a Linux, Red Hat, or something else, Ubuntu, or you name it, we can separate it and see further in depth what kind of device it is. What's the context about this about this device? Is it normal that it's connecting at night, or is it at the day? It's a service set. like a firewall policy, and we go top down through it. So it's pretty easy to set up. The maintaining is most of the times a bit more difficult because of the businesses. The business impact is more, is not to be underestimated, because if we can't shut down a production plant or something because we deploy this kind of security, and that's something, and more, if it gets really difficult if the directors or C-level personnel is bring their own personal laptops with them, yep. and then it's starting a political thing. So it's always challenging.
Got it. Right. But thanks for the clarification. Yeah, I think it makes sense. So preventing rogue devices, even from the software bill of materials, where we can identify which devices can only be reached out to.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hans, for the intervention. We're moving on, and we're moving on from here in Belgium, Flanders. We have some links already to Israel, but now we're moving to, I guess it's going to be East Coast US. Jay, good morning.